Hey everyone, Ryan here. Welcome to episode 14 of A Practical Guide to the Tower. This is a follow-up video from the last episode where we considered the various glass cannon mechanics in tier 14 and up. And in that video, I had mentioned to place more emphasis on controls as opposed to the emphasis on damage when it comes to making a glass cannon transition. So I received a comment from UCCAO4142. I'll put the comment up on the screen. Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I'm just going to call you UC. So UC's comment was saying that how do we deal with the boss without damage? And could I explain that, because he thinks that ops alone is not enough and most of the viewers do not have a workshop ops adjuster from the vault unlocked. So I think that's a very valid concern that you might have, you see, and also something that is very real for most of the player base. Now the truth is, damage is important. However, the control over the enemies that we have is actually what enables the glass cannon strategy. So in that previous video, I had mentioned that the aim of glass cannon is to try to keep the enemies on the outside of our range line as opposed to the inside of our range line. And so it really does not matter what our range is. We should still be able to in order to use the glass cannon strategy, we need to be able to satisfy that property, right? We want more enemies on the outside of our range line as opposed to the inside of our range line. Now, where is damage important? There are certain enemies that cannot be killed by ops, namely the fleets and the elites that cannot be killed by ops. So we do need a little bit of damage to be able to kill those enemies. So what I've done is I've decided to go for a tier 14 run, which is like the entry level, and I've decided to gimp my tower quite significantly to showcase how it might look like for you as you are making that transition. So let's first talk about the ultimate weapons. I've turned off most of my damage. The only thing that I have going for me is chain lightning. We need chain lightning mainly to deal with the scatter enemies, and my chain lightning base damage is 898x with 4 quantity and 20% chance. I think you can get away with slightly lower than this. As long as you're able to kill the scatter enemies, it is more than sufficient, whatever your chain lightning is. Thereafter, we have the other ultimate weapons that I have is just mainly there for econ. I've turned off Chronophil Plus because I think most players at this stage, you probably don't have a very developed GT Plus. So your top priority should always still be econ, in my opinion. Poison Swarm damage, I've turned it off. In fact, I don't have Poison Swarm as a control. The only controls that I'm using at this stage is a combination of a completely developed Chronophil, so permanent at 75% speed reduction, and Space Displacer. Because I have S mods, I've also decided to include the negative mass projector as my S mod, just to make the orbs look a bit bigger to illustrate the points a little bit better. Now let's check out this boss damage. Even at this stage, we are currently sitting at 132.63 enemy health, so bosses have 20x of that number. You can see that the bulk of my damage is still coming from a combination of plasma cannon and orbs at this stage. I have a little bit of chain lightning damage, but I've also gimped my damage down to be 2.96 million at this wave count and this level of health. So we can see that yes, the damage does help with killing the elites, but when it comes to bosses, we don't actually have to worry about having damage. What we need is to be able to hold the boss at our op line for as long as possible so that our ops can just shred through the boss. And that way we don't actually have to worry about our damage at all. Now I'm not sure what wave count I would actually get to, but let me show you the other things that I have gimped my tower in. So in terms of the damage related things, Berserker Mastery is not really relevant in this situation because I can just use the damage slider to remove my damage. So ignore this portion. But I've taken out Ultimate Weapon Crit to further gimp my Chain Lightning. I've taken out Area of Effect because I think this card unlocks in tier 19, which is quite far down the road for most of the player base. I've also taken out Crit Chance, I've taken out Attack Speed, and I think that's all that I had taken out. No, there's one more which I had taken out, which I can't remember. Oh yeah, Ultimate Weapon Crit, Area of Effect, Attack Speed, and Crit Chance. So I've removed these 4 cards over here just to reduce my damage even further. And I've also lowered my damage to -15 over here to keep it at a number far lower than what most players would be at when they are considering a Glass Cannon transition. Based on my recollection, when I started the Glass Cannon transition, I was sitting at somewhere around 100 to 200 billion base damage, and that was when I began the transition. So naturally, when I started with the Glass Cannon transition, I had, like what most players would think, well, since I need to kill the enemies very quickly, I need a lot of extra damage. So naturally what I did was, well, I went on with Damage Mastery, Demon Mode Mastery, Super Tower Mastery, all of that good stuff. Now all of that stuff, it really helps. Of course, we are able to kill the race and elites a lot further along into the run. However, looking back now, the main benefit of all of that damage is in extending the wave count, but not necessarily in enabling the strategy. What enables the strategy is to just be able to hold the enemies on the outside of the range line. Hopefully that makes sense. I honestly have no idea how far I can go with this. And just bear in mind that if you saw this video and you thought that, well, okay, I should be able to do a Glass Cannon strategy, you might not be able to get to this wave count, because even after gimping all the stuff, my tower is quite progressed, and you can see my attack level skips are much higher than what most of the player base would be at this level. But rather than focus on the wave count, just focus on the difference between my damage and what the wave damage is. So you can get a good idea of, well, with this amount of damage and a relatively underdeveloped set of ultimate weapons and so on, you should be able to make it to this kind of enemy health. Now, depending on what your level skips are, that wave health might come in a lot sooner. But as we can see now, my damage is getting a little bit too low for this kind of wave count. So what that means is that I probably need a bit more damage, and I can just increase my damage slider here. But hopefully this gives you an idea, you see, about why I had mentioned ops as the key damage dealing mechanism for Glass Cannon, and also why having controls over the enemies is actually a lot more important than being able to deal damage to the enemies. Alright, I hope you guys found this video useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!